as an entrepreneur that every stage of the business requires a different type of approach, and that evolution to constantly have a new challenge coming up.
What were the moments in Puma that created the level up for Puma in that 20-year period from 1 million of seed to 3,000 crores of revenue beating Nike and Adidas hollow?
I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, right? I wish I started when you started it. I start by saying that I'm not a 20s entrepreneur. I'm not a 30s entrepreneur. I'm a damn mid-40s entrepreneur. If you ask me, my number one reason to start Agilitas and create a company from India for the world in this category is just simply this. Because India does not have pride of place till India hustles and makes the space. India is going to grow 4 times in this category by 2030. It's a phenomenal growth.
When do you go past Puma in revenue?
I never thought about it till you
sure
asked
you
me.
What was your biggest challenge, marketing challenge, when addressing the Indian market at that point, like when Puma started, versus what would it be right now if you were to start fresh?
Yeah. Sound check? Yeah, perfect. Coffee will be a great idea. Awesome. That's why you look so good.
Abhishek, welcome to a brand new episode of the Barbershop. The first one that we're doing, and I'm so glad I'm doing it with a fellow alumnus of IIM Lucknow, with the amazing students of IIM Lucknow. And I know we've been here for almost a day, kind of taking a round, going and eating in the student-run ventures here, being a part of classrooms that we were a part of 15 years ago and even longer for you, maybe 22 years back now.
22 years.
How does it feel to be back?
Honestly, 2 things. I just can't imagine 22 years past. It just absolutely seems like the other day. And also, a lot of the campus is still the same. The walk from the mess to the academic hall to the library, that part, even the hostel, most of it is still the same. It feels very nostalgic. Has been great. And the idea for us to have a conversation here, meet with so many young minds, I feel very energized coming back here.
What a stellar career, man. What a stellar career. I've been following you for the last maybe 10 years almost, ever since I think Shreya started working with you. Shreya is also an IIM Lucknow alumnus, was an intern at McKinsey with me when I was her manager. And I heard a new term that students use nowadays, which is PPO'd. So she PPO'd her way into McKinsey, and then she joined you and she did very well. But ever since she spoke about you to me, I've always just been following your journey. To see a global brand like that be so entrepreneurial in India with a leader like you who kind of built it and at one point made it bigger than Nike and Adidas combined. So when I saw that about you, I was like, wow, this just seems like an insane story and an operator with passion for sports. But talk about what it takes to build a career like that over almost a 2-decade period.
Well, I would say that lot of things happen with serendipity. I came from a very, very small town in Bihar called Bhagalpur. I spent the first 20 years of my life there. Even for my undergrad, I was there. And then IIM Lucknow happened, came here. I remember when I came here, I used to feel quite out of league at that point of time because I was not that academically oriented initially in my
Kitna tha
career.
CGPA?
You were very, very. It was sub 5.
Oh, wow.
I don't want to leave bad, examples for people here, but it was terrible. At one point of time in PGP1, it was like a survival situation. I was like, hey, this is just not getting in. I never enjoyed academics. I think I was not wired at that point of time, pre-wired to take a course like this. Thankfully, in my background, my dad, who was a professor of English literature, had infused something in me where I would say I prioritize a few things. I mean, maths and a bit of communication came, the basis of which was set early. But that's it. When I came here, I was like real fish out of water. I would be mentally feeling so down. I was sharing with you in our walk. I distinctly remember one morning at 6:30. We had a presentation at 8. We had just come out of the computer center. I had bloodshot red eyes, and the sky was red, the buildings were red, and I was just wondering, what am I doing here? What business am I in? But yeah, I mean, when I look back, I think I really cherish that, because I think it became, it always works out, as you say, when you look back at that point of time, I could not have thought, but it has become a super integral part of what I am today as a person, not just as a professional. So IIM Lucknow was very, very special. I look back, I made some of the best friends. PGP2 was better the second year. I found my footing, did an event at that point of time which doesn't exist anymore, called Index. I really enjoyed it. And probably the first time in my life I then realized here that when there was a practical scenario, and a practical, you had to get projects, you had to get sponsorships, you had to organize the damn thing together. That's when I started enjoying it. So what probably that was the first time I enjoyed, other than the placement season and stuff like that. When there was a real action, I felt more comfortable.
Yeah. What did you take from campus to your career at Puma? And just given that you built that company out, like you spoke yesterday about the fact that it was seeded by the German holding company at under $1 million, and you guys built a 3,000 crore top line business. Just for the audience to like kind of get a sense of that in the venture world, if you are able to seed X rupees of capital, and if you're able to build a 4x in terms of revenue business in the consumer world, it's a spectacular achievement, especially if it's like over a 10-15 year period. But to take $1 million, maybe for 70 million lifetime, but to build out a 3,000 crore business is just spectacular. And then beating far larger global kind of companies in the process in India. But what did you take from here to do that? Just given that you always speak about yourself as someone who didn't feel at home here or academically felt like a fish out of water, it seemed like you were kind of always challenged uphill, but that muscle build was really good for you in your career.
I think that's very well put, Shantanu. I think if I look back, I'd say, because I was up against something, I had adversity, and some muscle was probably building, and I probably got discomfort very early in life. At Lucknow, I was uncomfortable, but I learned in the second year how to live with it. Lucknow also gave me access to, I saw that people who, have strong levels of work ethics, working really hard, learning new things. And that is for the first time I encountered that in real sense in this world. And that stayed with me. Once I moved out, actually, and when I encountered the real world, I actually had a 3-year stint from the then largest fashion brand in India, Reebok. This is 2002, just after campus, till 2005, before Puma hired me as the founding team member. I spent 3 years at Reebok, and then for the first time in my life, I started enjoying with direction. Like I said, okay, this is what I need to do, and I found, to a large extent, I found my work, I got a calling in that, and I would really start working very hard, um, and then I realized that when I work really hard on certain things, results come. To an extent that I believe that I continue to work very, very hard. I take utmost pleasure in leveling up every day. The Puma journey was phenomenal. I was so fortunate to be a part of that. And when everything seemed comfortable again, I wanted adversity and challenges again, and then thought of starting Agilitas. So, if I look at my journey, I would say finding atypical paths, different paths, not and also running up against something has always found me to be today in a very comfortable situation, being uncomfortable.
I love the idea you shared yesterday about leveling up every day. And I think probably the most famous entrepreneur in the world today, for good reasons and bad, Mr. Musk talks about it differently. And it kind of came embodied for me personally on Twitter or X. I think a couple of years back when the whole Twitter acquisition fiasco was going on. And at that time, the Twitter CEO was a gentleman named Parag Agarwal, who's one of India's biggest, exports, probably in the league of Sundar and Satya in terms of, just tech prowess and reputation. But when he and Musk were kind of took their corporate battle on Twitter,
Yeah,
I don't know whether you've seen that
yeah, I
thread.
did.
He
Yeah,
said something about Musk, and Musk basically responded back by saying, "What have you got done this week?"
yeah,
And it blew my mind that he could, in a succinct sentence, basically bring the level up argument to life, which is, what have you gotten done this week? And we think about what that guy does, from Neuralink to Tesla to SpaceX to Starlink to everything that he's doing. It just basically puts so much. It makes us feel so inadequate. कि हम लोग कर क्या रहे हैं? But do you operate in that view that I can always do more? I can always create more hours in a
yeah.
24-hour limitation?
Yeah, I always live life on the edge. I always have, multiple things that challenges my mind and inspires me. And I have been, in a lot of ways, I would always keep bringing the word luck here because I can always want all of this, but I've been lucky to have a set of friends with whom I want to spend a great evening and do a retreat with them, or find a professional network with whom I would get inspired by. Meet new people. You and I have not met, even though we know of each other so much, but it's the first time we're meeting. And I hope it's definitely not the last.
Oh, for
So,
sure. I'll make sure also.
no, I too will. So I really enjoy this. It's just not, it's about finding multiple dimensions in a life which keeps you engaged. Professionally, it's always has been about, even though I spent 17 years of my professional life in one company in Puma, there were so many stages. You know this, as an entrepreneur, that every stage of the business requires a different type of approach, and that evolution to constantly have a new challenge coming up. And I think that kept driving me, and I realized that very early in life, I realized that if I don't level up, not just in terms of energy, but if I don't, I'm talking professionally, if I don't level up in terms of knowledge, the world is changing so much. The way Puma was built, as an example, in the last 5 years, or just around COVID, was very different how Puma was built in the first 5 years when it was a completely unknown brand. How we are building Agilitas requires a completely different thing. So if you're not always on the money on what's happening in the marketplace, relationships, because everything is so super evolving. I mean, you don't stay relevant. I gave this example of, in everything. Like today, I'm sure you do some sport. Do you?
Yeah.
You do sport. You
I
play
watch a
football.
lot of
You
sports.
watch a lot of sport.
I spend time with Olympic gold quest. So I've gotten involved in Olympic sports also, as like, kind of almost studying them in a way, statistically and otherwise. But I play football whenever
Right.
I get a chance.
Yeah. So you play football. So you know that today you will be up against somebody who's putting in more hours, or the younger lot coming in. You need to stay up. Otherwise, you will be not in the league to play the same sport with them. If you have to be on the same pitch, you have to give in your best and probably stay. You can't get rusty. Same thing with professional life. Like, I think today, after having 20 years, I mean, people probably would say, hey, this guy has had a decent career, he's got good credibility. But if I just stick on to that and I just don't get my next game face on, right, I will not survive. And I think that's the feeling. I mean, and it's not pressure. A lot of people say, hey, is this putting your life's balance into, are you, is this very imbalanced, and how do you really, is it to, I said, I can't be luckier. I can't be
That's
luckier.
privilege,
I'm
yeah.
getting, so that has been the approach. And I think I just thrive on that. I feel inspired by it personally.
What were the moments in Puma that created the level up for Puma in that 20-year period from 1 million of seed to 3,000 crores of revenue beating Nike and Adidas hollow? I'm sure there were moments, and we spoke about Virat, of course, and how you guys really made collaboration with a celebrity something so unique in its own way. But there were many more moments along the way which were manufactured. You spoke about also how you were first to do stuff on Facebook when it was not a thing, or on e-commerce when it was not a thing, and about Virat. But talk a little bit about what made Puma, which was a third, fourth, fifth level brand, be number one in such a short period. Because I know you can, I know someone like you will know the silver bullets on this.
Well, 2005 end, I got hired as director sales and marketing as a second team member. We didn't even have an entity initially. The entity got incorporated after I came on board. And that was the level of startup that I really experienced. Later, I realized it was only quasi entrepreneurship.
Equity was not there.
So, but I look back and say, hey, that time, nobody knew the brand. You would be amazed. That happens with unknown brands, right? When I was signing up a store on Brigade Road in Bangalore, I remember the landlord saying that, how do I know you will pay up every month? You need to demonstrate that. I would rather give this to, and he named a domestic brand which was around for a long period of time, doesn't exist that much today. And he said, I have an offer, it's lesser than what you are giving me, but I would go with them. And you have to really convince them to, even the first store team members that we had to hire, we had to pay more because they said, what if they don't exist tomorrow, right? I mean,
Or you just have to you have to work harder to sell the same stuff. I think
yeah,
with sales staff in
yeah,
stores, sometimes they just like with lesser known brands, they just want to charge more because it's
yeah.
harder to sell your stuff.
Yes, it's harder to sell your stuff. You know, it's easier to that time have sold a Reebok or a Nike. So it's really hard. And that point of time, I mean, we were like probably in our mid-20s, and at that point of time, it was like we could have taken more risks. What happens in career is that, as you would know, the earlier you are there, so your risk appetite is definitely higher. And we did run up into something which is like we pushed back a lot, because the company at that point of time, and the company had a lot of changes at the board level over time. But at that point of time, a German company with a primarily German board had a very different view of the world, and especially of India. It didn't happen. It didn't help that Adidas India had certain issues going on from a financial bookkeeping perspective, and Puma and Adidas in Germany, in this place called Herzogenaurach, just a very small town, are actually headquartered just across the streets. So what happens there is also passed on to the other side. And they built a bit of apprehension about India and trusting people, the trusting management. So we went through all of this. And Puma's philosophy at that point of time was not to just douse capital, win market share, even though we were the last entrant among the big four. So it was quite a bit of challenge. What really worked, I would say that it never followed a template. Hey, a lot of brands said, we are this brand, we are X, we have the best assets in the world, we're the largest brand in the world, and just to Indian consumers will love our brand, and which is not untrue. But to operate that market, to operate that requires a very, very different approach. And a lot of times, headquarters would be averse to doing that. And pushing that back was very critical. Puma overall did stuff which, in a lot of ways, I would say was the first. It created a history of firsts. First brand to get to using social media marketing when Facebook was in its earlier
You said it
days.
was 2009 or 10. I was
2009. I mean, it
2009,
was.
most people, I don't think many people here would have had a Facebook account in 2009. I opened one in probably 2010 or so.
Yeah. So first Facebook campaign was 2009. Connected with our Linking Road store back in the days. User generated stuff. I mean, it is, when I look back, if you hear the campaign today, you'll laugh, but it was so much ahead of its time. First brand to launch the direct to commerce web store back in, I would say, very similar 2012, 2013. And the inventory was actually an aggregate of store inventory. So I was already thinking marketplace without understanding marketplace existed. First brand on Mintra fashion, first brand on Mintra, first brand literally.
You're
Um,
the first brand on Mintra
First
Fashionist.
brand when Mukesh had the pivoted, the even before he had pivoted, he had come, and those days Puma used to be the IPL
You're
sponsor
right.
of two IPL teams, sponsor of two IPL teams, Rajasthan Royals and Deccan Chargers, and he came in to take some of our jerseys because he had a personalized jersey, and that was the first time we connected. And then when he pivoted the business, Puma was the first brand, and today it's clearly the largest brand on Mintra, largest external brand on Mintra, and that trail continues. Flipkart Fashion, when they started up, I remember the first brand to go and say, because a lot of brands are very apprehensive of a new channel coming up, and felt that their trade was actually up against that, because there is certainly, the price disparity, access, and trade was really, and brands were actually seeing e-commerce as a competition, not like their own
That's
channel.
crazy.
It's and we said, whoa, we don't have that much distribution yet. The others have, and this is a distribution channel for future. Let's get going with it, and we built that. And how, right? I mean, Puma's business was 50% e-commerce. Then lots, working with the creator world, working on collaborations, supply chain, almost 30 to 50%, depending on the category, was already being sourced from India. That gave a faster access to the market. And it goes on, right? It was not, the entire team was built very differently. We did not hire people who had done it already. We hired people who came from a very different background, very young team, grew and learned on the go, solved problems absolutely through first principles initially, learned by doing, learned, failed, learned, picked up, ran. Was a real success story, and it happened, right? I remember by 2019, Puma's business was 1,414 crores pre-COVID. COVID 2020 was the first time where the business fell from in Puma's you know journey in India. 2022, Puma became a 3,000 crore brand. So from pre-COVID, less than 1,500 to 3,000, and bigger than Nike and Adidas put together. And it was a phenomenal journey. The team took absolute pride. Nobody left the ship. Literally, like hardly people left the ship. The culture was fantastic. It seemed like one cool place to work. We had a lot of fun.
Now tell me, I'm gonna paint this in as honest fact as possible. So you're the CEO of a wildly successful athletics company. You've done many things for the first time and almost defined the playbook, right? You and your team were ahead of the curve, and people are now following you in a way which is what maybe 20 years back no one would have imagined. So you decide that you and your two top lieutenants at Puma will start a company. You will raise almost 600 crores in seed capital, buy out Puma's top manufacturer and supplier. So supply and people will leave to start Agilitas. Please tell me how that conversation happened with your bosses, and how are they okay with it?
Uh, well, first and foremost, the supply chain didn't leave because we still make for Puma as
Okay.
Mochico. So the concept at that point of time, I'll just go back in time. 2022, I had the opportunity to do more at Puma, and I was
So you've taken
doing
on a
this
global role and so on, right?
global role. I was already doing Southeast Asia. More was coming in because my boss's boss, Bjorn, left the business to join Adidas as the CEO. Arna, my boss, became the CEO of Puma. that really opened up a lot of space for doing more organically within the company. But deep in my mind, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, right? I wish I started when you started at the age you started. I mean, I always thought about it like that. The reason I kept hooked on to Puma was it gave me most of the pleasures of entrepreneurship. I had the headroom, I had the full flexibility. We were cracking the market and creating a code which was not a copy paste. So that's what an entrepreneur does, except that it was somebody else's company.
Correct.
And mostly foreign shareholders. And
Did that,
and
did that affect you a little bit?
yeah, I think it did not affect me, but there were moments of truth where I realized that I was actually not creating value for Indian shareholders and Indian ecosystem per se.
I'll tell you when it hit me.
Yeah.
Is when I was talking to the Colgate is an investor of mine,
Yeah.
and the Colgate CFO would send profit targets to all global subsidiaries of Colgate.
Yeah.
That this year I need you to get me $300 million, $200 million, whatever, right? And I think India is in similar. The CFO of India gets a similar target. And while India is a publicly owned company, a majority of that profit actually on the 31st of March gets deposited back, man.
Yeah.
And I'm sure for you,
Yeah.
you and your team would be hustling like crazy.
Yeah.
At 3,000 crores, I'm assuming you're creating 500 crores of PAT. And all of that is just kind of going
Yeah.
back to whatever,
Yeah.
Germany.
Yeah. So, and also, I also saw something which today, call it, I'm no longer in my 20s, 30s. I look at it a bit with that lens of a bit of philosophy. I also see this that I saw that even when I looked back at the thread, I saw that India became celebratory in the world of Puma when India was successful. India was super successful. India was a crown jewel, got superbly celebrated. I would not disagree that India was spoken about in global platforms very, very well. But I also know the time when we were not. And then there, some of the other markets, more evolved markets, maybe eighth, the brand might have been the eighth in that market in the pecking order, but was far more given attention than India did. So India really had to hustle. And if you ask me, my number one reason to start Agilitas and create a company from India for the world in this category is just simply this. Because India does not have pride of place till India hustles and makes the space. And it's absolutely, for me, it gives me the number one reason to wake up every morning. And
That
I
is so
saw
true.
that. I saw that. When we were small and we were insignificant versus others are also small and insignificant, India is treated like a rounding off, right? You had to really hustle and say, hey, this entire story about India becoming the number one, Puma becoming number one and spoken about and all that, then you get all the love, all the respect.
It almost feels like you have to earn it.
You have to earn it. You have to
More than others.
hustle for it, and you just create your space. You have to break through those doors. You have to break through the global headquarters. Till date, Puma, when they moved to a bigger, I'm just giving a small, in the global subsidiary, in the global headquarters, I saw meeting rooms. A new office came up. Shanghai, Tokyo, Frankfurt, New York, Boston. There was no New Delhi. There was no Bangalore. There was no Bombay. And these are small little things. And,
They
and this
matter.
is where it does matter. This is the pride of the country that we have to build. Like we are investing so much of our time, giving our best. But it's not a fair world. And just like internally I had to fight this through, I want to now fight it out from outside.
That is such a powerful thing. That is such a powerful thing because every time someone tells me also that, that India has not built a brand for the world. There's no aspirational brand for India. And there'll be like a few examples here and there, maybe a Royal Enfield or Tata Group as a conglomerate. But, like in your space, for example, whether it's a North Face or a Patagonia or a Nike, Adidas, Puma or Tiger, India has not yet created a global premium brand across categories. But tell me about Agilitas. I'll tell you very honestly. Your 565 crore seed fund situation was like talked about everywhere on every WhatsApp group because it's a very unique thing. Of course, you're an extremely established operator with a lot of credibility. But to raise money of that kind on day one and then go and buy 1,000 crore running revenue business. You seem to be like a deal maker of very even with Virat at Puma, for example. I know you laugh it off very nonchalantly, but this kind of deal making is complicated and oftentimes most people cannot do it. But talk a little bit about how you structured this
Yeah.
company on day one to be 1,000 crore day one company.
Yeah. So look, I start by saying that I'm not a 20s entrepreneur. I'm not a 30s entrepreneur. I'm a damn mid 40s entrepreneur. So while I have a long view, I hope I continue to keep leveling up and keep working for a good decade plus, if not more, and stay relevant for this market. But I really wanted to stitch together, and I was very ambitious. The ambition came, and now you know the basis for that ambition. The basis for the ambition is in this category have a absolutely scaled, globally relevant business. So given that ambition was very high, I didn't want to do a sports brand from India, D2C, raise and go through that journey of, because I'll tell you, in our industry, there are very few brands. If you look at sports, there are very few brands which are successful and has sustained.
Name some that you look up to.
Like, of course, from the past, the Nike is the best of the best. You know, if you look at closer now, there is Lululemon, which has come in phenomenally well. There is now Hoka and On coming up. So over a period of time, there have been these brands, and US has a lot of these athleisure brands now coming in the lines of how Lululemon was, how Lululemon is. There's so many of them coming up now because the world is changing to absolute athletic leisure, not just on the sports pitch, but look at the jacket you're wearing, the shoes you're wearing. So people are really, this is a growing market. But to solve for this as a brand, you need large scale resources. Now I'll tell you why. You need manufacturing, because in India, manufacturing is super important in our category. There are very, very few, absolutely, I would say hardly, companies which can make sports shoes in India well with good quality. And due to certain regulations, it's important to make them in India and be closer to the market and make in India. And and so you need to solve for supply chain. Design is super important. Design and R&D. You need, say, footwear is 70% of the business. You need to be aesthetically, both form and function are very, very important. Both performance and aesthetics. That's very important. So you have to solve for that. Then you have to solve for brand. To my point, there are very few brands. So you need to create reasons for your brand to exist, have a brand story which is consistently told in the most futuristic way, which is relevant to the audience, and you connect with the community and build a strong brand. And then you need traffic to your channels. So you need to spend performance marketing money to the channels in the most efficient way. Then you need to create distribution, because in India, see, when let's say Hoka is building, they make some great products, they make some great market, do some great community based marketing. That's how they started. Then they went to a running shoe store in the US, said, can you give me this shelf and I will range my products. These are my top 2 products I have created, right? That's how the journeys of those brands. In India, you don't have these multi-brand retail stores. So you have to create distribution, whether it is online through .com. The only multi-brand distribution available is marketplaces, where there is deluge of because of the concept of marketplace. You have to stand out in these marketplaces. Then you have to build exclusive brand outlets for touch and feel. It requires capital. So I was very clear that I have to create an end-to-end manufacturing to retail scenario. And that's when I chatted up, I know Virender and the other 5 who had set up Mochiko 17 years back. Viren actually was with Reebok when I was a management trainee. He was.
Oh, you guys go back that long back, is it? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was just a new kid on the block in Reebok, and he was that time the head of sourcing. He went to China briefly to learn about the art of sneaker making. And and for the last 10, 11 years, Puma used to the biggest supplier for Puma was Mochiko, and Atul, who's my co-founder, has worked very, very closely with them. So the best due diligence was done. So they're absolutely the best in class. And now we
So you knew that asset.
knew that asset,
You knew the people.
knew the quality, knew the capability.
And you had full conviction that this is not. So, for example, I know a top VC fund in India who decided to get a top cricketer in India and said, we'll give the cricketer 20-25%. We'll build an athleisure brand on their name. We'll put in $10 million on day one and get a top operator with marketing and branding chops to put and give that person 20% along with 10% for the team. So it's 20-25% with the top cricketer.
I probably know that deal.
Yeah, I know you do. Because they probably have spoken to you.
Yeah.
But that was one way to do it, which is
Yeah.
you solve for marketing in a way, or at least
Yeah.
top of funnel in a way. You solve for capital and you solve for people.
Yeah.
But you don't solve for manufacturing.
Yeah.
But you decided that, hey, hold on.
Yeah.
We need to solve for manufacturing. And to solve for that, then you need
Yeah.
oodles of capital on day one, because otherwise you're not going to be able to do it.
Yeah. So look, it depends on the category. If the manufacturing has been solved and there is no much differentiation, like in the case of apparel manufacturing,
Or personal care.
or personal care, if the manufacturing is solved and that's not where the secret code lies, then there's no point getting it inside, right?
You can work with them.
You can work with them, and that's where that's not the case here, right? There is only, I really believe there's only one Mochiko right now. Others are trying. There are 2-3 such. There is a big conglomerate doing this out of Chennai. There are 2-3 old factories who've been on it, not so efficiently, but they have clearly created an asset which is absolutely great. And more so, when I was looking at this business, I said, we need to take any part of the value chain we need to hold. So, for example, even if it is somebody else's brand, where you're doing contract manufacturing, even we want to capture that part of the value also into our book. So, we want to be somewhere or the other, if in this room, we want to have a share of that sneaker as a part of our business. Now, that might not be the entire brand. That might not be retail, but we want to capture, even if it is Adidas or Puma, because we want to enable the entire Make in India thing for everyone else. India is going to grow 4 times in this category by 2030. It's a phenomenal growth. And we want to enable that through our Mochiko, this thing. What also it does is that when we build our brand business, which I can talk about, there also we are creating a vertically integrated factory dedicated for us, a clear R&D center for us, design center for us, vertically integrated. We will also do direct to consumer. We'll work very closely with marketplaces. We'll work very closely with retailers, and we'll set up our own stores. In the process, have full access to consumer data. We'll have full access to trends. And in an agile way, that's why Agilitas, convert this into product because we hold the entire value chain. And do that in an absolutely agile manner, because I know some of the best brands in the world, including the one that I have worked in, finds it very difficult to crash this lead time because just of the largeness of the structure that they are. Sometimes it takes 30 months, sometimes it takes 12 months, sometimes it takes 20, depending on the product category. We want to absolutely crash this. I want to tell you that, for example, if you like a sneaker, let's say from our portfolio of brands, and you are a creator, I can collaborate with you and launch the shoes within 60 days. That's the capability we are building.
Wow.
And that just doesn't happen. It can happen in t-shirt, because a t-shirt is not a structured product. You cut the fabric, you stitch, you print, you can do some, the fabric there is the key, but, a footwear needs a last, a tooling, a mold. It's a very constructed, structured product. Getting comfort here, it's not just that easy, right? It's an engineered product. It has multiple components. To do that in 60 days, we have a game on our hands.
That is insane. And for you, you think sneaker is the bet you have taken because that will be the core of your business for the medium to long term, if I were to think about it.
Look, we will be building sportswear brand. In the manufacturing, we will do sneaker. We will not acquire an apparel because that problem has been solved in India. There are some great garment manufacturing companies. People are doing that very well. Some of them are absolute great partners from the past and even in the current. That problem has been solved. Sneaker making for India is a problem that has not been fully solved, and it's a growth category, and we would solve it for all brands, not just for brands that Agilitas does.
So Agilitas is basically a multi-brand manufacturer which is going to create brands of its own and create value there, but will use its manufacturing at full capacity to build out revenues for other brands also.
Absolutely, because I'll just give you an example. When we acquired the business on 2023 numbers, we were a 740 crore business. This year in 2025, financial year 24-25, March 2025, we will be a 1,050 crore business. We have increased the capacity, and today we make 12 million pairs annually. We want to take this to 24 million pairs. We are 11,000 people on the factory. We will generate at least 10,000 more jobs in the next 3-4 years. So a lot of my I think I would say a lot of things are, you're creating jobs at that level. You're enabling brands. This is growing as a category. Then you're creating your own brands, 2-3 brands, not just one brand. Building a brand from India for the world here. So there is a multiple legs to this plan.
Tell me the deal. Because for me, this is insane. How do you get someone who has 1,000 crore running business which is profitable to sell it to you fully? How do you get investors to put in 600 crores on day one to facilitate this? How do you promise returns to these two main player people as a day one entrepreneur? I can imagine if you were doing this for 20 years and then you kind of came in and did this. But as a day one entrepreneur, it's unheard of, yeah, to be able to pull off a deal like this.
Yeah.
Let's say I'm the 600 crore investor.
Yeah.
What do I get in Agilitas that is so exciting?
Disproportionate IRR is what you will get.
How? Explain that to me. What's the story here?
Yeah, so look at this. Today, Agilitas has a profitable cash generating Mochico at 1,000 crores. It's not fully levered from a debt perspective, and hence all the growth doesn't need equity capital anymore. Most of the equity capital from what we have, and more than almost half of the fund that we raised, is for consumer brands. The consumer brands, we will launch 3-4 consumer brands, not one, but 3-4, all coadjacent and less cannibalizing. So we are launching Lotto, a brand for which we have signed a 40-year license. I'm wearing the shoes of this. 40 years license for India, South Africa, and Australia. And it's a long-term investment. We will the brand has very high levels of recall. It's a strong Italian heritage brand, so it's some great designs. We are building a lot of additional designs, making all of them in Mochico on the shoes front.
And you went and acquired Lotto for India.
Yeah, absolutely. So it is. We have a full flex on from design to manufacturing to retail to brand building, and we will build this very deep. Like, we are absolutely clear that we have a reason for Lotto to exist, thought through, and we will build this very, very strongly. And I believe that Lotto has an opportunity to create a 2,000 crore brand with the vision that we have and the ingredients that we have put together.
In what time period?
Maybe in 10 years, I'm not fussed about it. Can also happen in 7, it can happen in 11. But we have to have a long-term thesis of a great sustainable brand which has a clear reason to exist in the marketplace. And build, you will see a lot of, from March onwards, a lot of action around this brand. We're launching we will also be the second brand that will come in will be in June, which will be India's first aspirational sports brand from India for the world. That itself is a very large opportunity. And we will also add by 2026, 27 onwards, we will add a couple of brands. But we are not a typical house of brands. We are a sports company, sportswear company, only sport. We will not do, women's fashion or
Ethnic wear
or
or-
ethnic wear or, we're very, very clear that this is the business we understand. So build them deep and just 3-4 brands, 3-4 because we saw in India there's multiple India in India and very difficult. I also saw in Puma that the total addressable market for Puma in a $1.5 billion 1.5 billion population country was not more than 40 million. So if you have to somewhere at today's date take 80 million as your TAM, you just can't do this with one brand. So we are doing this with 3-4 brands. And creating multiple channels, multiple category to all of them will be multi-channel. So I really see building a $1 billion revenue business in this category coming in. Mochiko already it would be a $120 million business. So we need to get it to 7 times. And I'm
You
sure
think tailwinds are there when it comes to market growth?
there is huge tailwind.
For example, FMCG is seeing at a scale level, is seeing significant headwinds.
Yeah,
Consumption is going down, premiumization is getting more muted.
sure.
But except for certain categories, but for you,
Yeah.
I think clearly it's so.
You can see what these guys are wearing.
Yeah,
right?
I was
Look
actually
at-
noticing. Yeah,
Look
everyone
at
is.
everyone wearing even the slippers, the open footwear is a big opportunity. Look at the sneakers, look at the mules, look at what everyone's
mule?
wearing. Look at what she's wearing. Look at all of this. Then look at the sweatshirts, the track jackets, the track pants. Look at the way you are wearing a denim, but denim's making a comeback. But so is
This is like
I'm
really
wearing
old. Like this is like I'm wearing a jeans after a long time because of the cold.
Yeah.
The tracks are very
Yeah.
difficult for. But you're right. Like it's becoming.
Yeah.
People wear the same stuff to gyms that they wear
Yeah.
to offices that they wear for like casual evenings out now.
Yeah.
Like something like what you're wearing
Yes.
right now
Yeah.
is very easily acceptable in the office
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
on a casual day and
Yeah.
for a dinner
So
out
you
with
have a
family
bit
also.
of performance material into this. So this will even the headgears to everything, right? Is sports performance and athletic leisure. So there is a large tailwind. And you know what's the most interesting part? I'll tell you. The most interesting part is India will play more sport, go to more gyms, play more sport. So there will be sportswear brands will play in that. You go to the office, college, athleisure, street, there is a play there. At home, people are moving out of this traditional night dresses and nightwear and loungewear and wearing absolutely comfortable sportswear and lounging at home. So you're actually and also fashion. If you look at the fashion ramp or the airport look or what some of the biggest creators and influencers are wearing is also athletic inspired. So you're actually every part of your life, sportswear is getting into.
It's becoming very utility first, right?
It's becoming very utility first, comfort first, expression first kind of a. And sportswear becomes like an expression of your. Look at the jacket that you're wearing. It's a great expression, right? I would say that it brings out your personality. You can actually live your personality wearing sportswear. A sneaker
IIM
is an
Lucknow,
expression.
This is an IIM
Absolutely.
Lucknow one.
No, it's a great jacket. It's a great
you very
jacket. So there are tailwinds, and then it was about, to your point on deal. I see it like, how can I stitch together something which benefits all the partners? I think that's how I see it. Whether it was Viren and company.
What do you tell those guys? कि तुम्हारी company मेरे को दे दो, and I will make you really rich in the long term. Because you have built this 1,000 crore enterprise.
Yeah,
So give it to me.
yeah,
Because I seem to like know what I'm doing and I have a bigger vision. I am the brand builder,
yeah.
and you will have equity in an IPO that's many times the size.
I
Is
must say that those
is that the
guys,
essence?
yeah, and those guys are as thrilled and stoked about it than
I'm sure
anybody
because
else.
you've clearly because frankly it's I can imagine doing this with an investor. Because an investor is an investor, right?
they
They will love a good vision and a dream, and they will underwrite it if they're excited enough. But for operators
Yeah.
who have built 1,000 crore business,
Yeah.
they know this in and out.
Yeah.
Right? They're clearly your
Yeah.
bosses at Reebok and so on. Right?
Yeah.
So then that means that there was this was not just
Yeah.
hubris.
Yeah.
This was true,
Yeah.
meaty proposal that you had
Yeah.
come up with.
And I think that's where I think having spent that time in the market and also worked with them, like even when we were on the across the table as vendor customer relationship, I believe we were always fair. I give a lot of credit to Atul here because he managed that relationship, and Viren and he became really close friends. And there was a lot of trust. And I think with me and Viren, there has always been a lot of mutual respect for each other. So when you start trusting, I think trust is the word. If you trust that, this guy is just not telling me something to get his ends met, but really believes in it, and I would be rejoicing to the top of my level when all of these guys will have the best exits of their life.
Are they involved operation?
Yeah, of course. They continue to
running
run
Mochico,
Mochico. They like Viren is the CEO. All of them are COOs.
They are like co-founders basically.
They are co-founders. They're absolutely co-founders. So we and they are absolutely joint at the hip, big time. And it's just not them. When I go and see, even if people who are not on the cap table, I think one has to do right things. And I feel so energized when I meet the CEO of Shopper Stop or the CEO of Myntra or people from the past I've worked very, very closely with, absolutely ready to not just partner up for business reasons, but to just help and support a story that we are building. And that gives me again a lot of pleasure. Like or on the athletes and the creators side, some of the athletes, some of the best athletes we've worked with, or some of the best creators we've worked with, some of the best marketing agencies I've worked with. The Spring Marketing Capital, they put in some capital into it. Vineet and I go back. We've done some campaign with Puma. He was that time the CEO of DDB. He had founded 22 Feet, the digital marketing agency, and sold it to DDB. And that time he was the CEO, and we did some great campaign. And some of these relationships have been kept.
Abhishek, talk a little bit about. So of course, you got obviously got heavyweight investors, private equity investors with a large check. You had an asset that you had worked with. You knew the people for many years. You got them in. So you had money, you had asset, and you clearly had a vision for building a premium athletics brand centered around shoes and sneakers with a clear manufacturing angle also that you will manufacture for other brands. So this was all put together. But executing from day one involved a team beyond just capital and the asset, right? And you got together with folks you had worked with at Puma. But talk a little bit more about the first 10, 15 people. How did you identify them beyond just the two CXOs you got in? What did you look for? I know a lot of conversations here on campus have been about what are the intrinsics you identify in the people you work with. How did you find them, and how have you empowered them? How have you incentivized them? How do they come into work super thrilled, even though, like, frankly, you are thousands of crores, but you're still a 1-year-old company,
Yeah, yeah.
right? So how does that dichotomy kind of
Yeah.
fit with this team that you're assembling?
Yeah. No. I think that's a big reality on the consumer side. Manufacturing side, look, there is a 17-year-old company. There are a lot of tailwinds there. Brands want to work very closely with us. They want more capacity. They need more capacity. We are enhancing that asset also in terms of team, getting more technical strength to that team, getting in some of the best people, also technicians from Far East to come and work with us. Really enhancing the strength of that management team, also the mid-management team. Also
11,000 people is a large number.
11,000 people, also working on corporate governance, really improving the asset class. It's by the business also is quite different, strengthening relationship with brands, working strategically with brands. So that's a business that's going on. It's operated out of Gurgaon. We have a headquarters there. We have factories in Dehradun, Rishikesh, and Noida, all of them growing. The big brands have their independent factories, their independent R&D center within the factories. So that requires a very different treatment, and also far matured in its own journey. And then there is this consumer business part, which is operated out of Bangalore. There also, we are not building absolutely from scratch. Lotto is a known brand. The second brand will also be a known brand. And we do have certain things where in the equation, which is not an absolute scratch. Like you said, we probably have the capital to take it to a certain scale, and then we have it's quite an investable platform, Agilitas. So our ability to raise capital when we need should be there. Um, but I make no the mistake, right? We might have some of the best times in the past in creating another brand, but we have all the right ingredients. You have to cook the dish, and we should make no mistake about that. And I really, in my head, I am not in any sense of misconception about that. The consumer, the trade and the retail partners and the ecosystem is super excited, super helpful, super supportive, and also excited to collaborate. But the consumers need a reason to buy these brands, and there is absolutely no special treatment from the consumer. Consumer will view it as any other brand, and you need to have your reason to exist and your rights to win their heads and their minds and their heart, right? And that's the philosophy, right? And we are building a very futuristic brand business. Our approach is not to copy paste anybody else's success. It's creating an absolute different brand playbook. We're really looking into the marketplace, seeing all types of gaps in terms of entire value chain, including the brand. Like, what are the white spaces that others are not into? What will be the story of our brand? What unique products which will we launch? What are these price points? And the art and science of doing this. So what team do you need? At this stage, Agilitas has about 40 people on the consumer side based in Bangalore. We just had our 40th. By end of this year, we will have probably 120 people. I want to create a very, very agile, nimble team. Lot of the things that in my past avatar I was insourcing, I'm outsourcing. It really helps. I realize the benefits. I've critically evaluating everything that I had done in the past, and making corrections, and also
Give me
putting
an
a
example
future.
of insourcing to outsourcing.
Like, for example, a lot of the part of marketing I had insourced in the company, to have full control, because I thought that you are a marketing company, but you lose. I realized that you lose a lot of realities of the field because you become very, very boxed in, and you need an outside in view. So I'm surrounding myself with the right kind of people, who are, whether it is the whichever side of marketing, whether it is the content side or the creator side or popular culture side. You need to have your eyes and ears and your sense, and a lot of it cannot just happen, because when you're inside the company, you're really solving for in a very company centric way. But the culture, the community is all outside. Sometimes it helps to listen to diverse things. um, Even in tech, like, I'm not building the entire, whatever my philosophy in tech is, that it's a tech first, digital first approach, unlike the incumbent brands. But there also, what has been solved, I'm not held hostage to any global template which I have to follow today. And hence, in tech, whatever has been solved, we will license or we'll buy into that. Use SaaS products. Bangalore is an absolute great place for it. And what can be a secret sauce, those we will build. So I'm just giving examples, right? Design also, like, it's not about, hey, let me just work with in-house product designers. So keeping a healthy mix of external partners, freelancers, as well as a core team is what my approach at Agilitas has been. it also keeps the thing nimble. Tomorrow business plan needs the business plan is outnumbered, like you outpace it. Um, you can always add in. Your flex is higher, and hence we keep a very nimble structure. Um, in terms of the team, what I'm looking at, of course, out of the 40, there are quite a few people I've worked with in the past. That is very natural. Some of the people with whom I built the business, there is an absolute familiarity, trust, a lot of fun we had, and I need to keep my fun zone on. So some of those guys are there. But in terms of people, I'm seeing two, three things. I am realizing that when people come in from a stereotypical large company thinking, which has worked for them very well, executed very well, a template, might not necessarily be right for my journey today. It's about finding people who are extremely inspired to create a new path and question, look at things from a first principles basis, and have absolute hunger and hustle to go after it in a differentiated way. I say this, that implementing somebody else's template, very successful template, is a very, very different thing from your ability to create a new playbook. And my biggest filter today is that. The second filter is I want people who will inspire me and will get inspired in the Agilitas ecosystem. So I'm looking at people who come in with that are they energy givers or they're energy takers, right? And that is something which is very important. And we are building a high trust, high fun, high ambition company. And I really believe the three of them can coexist. And if you do that, and if you have a clear vision and you have the ingredients, I feel we have a very high chance of very high success.
What's the 10-year vision or the 5 to 10-year vision? There's a company that will build out, of course, premium brand from India for the world in this space.
Yeah.
But at a corporate level, you think this can be public market reality very soon?
Yeah. Because the consumer side will take a bit more time, and it's better to be private for some time. I don't want to really foresee this, but I don't have I would say anywhere between 6 to 10 years is a good time to go public. It might be 8 years, might be the sweet spot. I really want to build a clear, absolute, the playbook should get established in terms of the brand being super deep, and the brand should have created its pride of place. All the brands, the business, the P&Ls should be such that we just don't work on high gross margins, which we would do from the beginning, but also strong profitability. Because there is a lot of lot of the investment, including brand, R&D, and people, which one has to do, front load that. And once all of that has, all the operating leverages have come in, and the brands have got fairly established, is when it would be a good time to take this to the market.
When do you go past Puma in revenue?
I never thought about it
I'm
till you
sure
asked
you
me.
You're lying.
On the consumer side or overall?
Overall?
I mean, I wish my ex-colleagues the best, is all I can say. Because they should be able to grow the business further from where I left it. And what pace that they generate, I don't know. But I think we have an ambition to be $1 billion business. Again, I say this in 10 years' time, or so want to build a $1 billion business, and a great organization that nobody wants to leave.
Amazing. Abhishek, at this point, for me, this has been a fantastic conversation. We'll open it up to questions and conversation.
Yes, so hello, sir. I'm Samriddhi. So while you were talking about Agilitas and the sub brands that you are going to launch under it, you used the term futuristic. So a lot of ideas popped in my head. Ki, what is it gonna be? Is it gonna be like some acupressure thingy, steps counting, or is it talking about sustainability? Is there something gonna be in the design, or is it gonna indulge AI creators that are all there? So how, like, for the spectators, like, what is it gonna be like? Like, can you elaborate on the futuristic
Yeah.
part?
What a
yeah,
lovely question.
Yeah. Phenomenal question. So look, there can be two parts of futurism. One is in your product, and the second thing is the way you reach the product to the consumer, right? And in the product, there is lots. There is so much of product engineering and R&D that's going on. Some of it can be to just enhance existing functionalities at a better price, existing for functionalities or enhanced functionalities for the same price. Lot of the time, sneakers is seen as, if the sneaker is cool, it is uncomfortable, right? And that's not how it should be, right? How do you create cool brand sneakers which are super comfortable? You can wear it through the day for 26 hours, right? I mean, I always add 2 hours to the 24, right? So how can you do that? And then, of course, there is futurism in terms of lot of things, in terms of Internet of Things, to getting a shoe, the way the shoes are, the closure system, how can you make it more easy, more comfortable? In apparel, there is a lot of new things going on, without disclosing much on that, on the fabric level, because people are now really sleeping in the same fabric, moving around in the same fabric. India is a hot country. In footwear, just imagine, today what a footwear goes through when it rains, or there's a lot of dust outside. So how do you deal with that, right? I mean, people are used to having soiled shoes, right? So there is a lot of functionality that can go in. There can be technology going in. There can be smart shoes. And because the shoe will be unlike the watch, where it is not the ideal place to just measure step. The shoe is. But you wear some disadvantage. If you have multiple shoes, then you don't wear it every time. Whereas with the watch, it's always always on device. So there's a lot of this conversation. I would say we are very early in innovation, but innovation is a part of our DNA. Like, currently we're solving for the solved problems and bettering them in terms of closure systems, dust, rain, some of these problems, which are not the first problems to solve for from a global brand's perspective. Then there is also innovation when it comes to building brands. Incumbent brands have a set pattern, or how they've built brands, that used to be applicable 20 years back, 30 years back. This today, you look at some of the best brands in the world on consumer internet, they have got created globally in the last 15 years, right? They had followed a very, very different journey. And I believe that even consumer brands, which are product-led brands, will also have a very, very different next 10, 15 years of build in terms of outreaching to the consumer. So it's both. Does it answer your question? I did not get into too many details of it, but
Bits of it, yes. To get a bit more clarity, can you just tell me some attributes of a persona that I can, relate to the sub brands that you are going to create? Like how would it differentiate from the other brands?
yeah. So, again, I'm not getting too specific because you'll understand I'm at a very sensitive stage of our launch, but I'll give you without really giving it away, but I'll just give you one example. Today, the modern Indian woman is going to the yoga center in the morning, going to the office, coming back, and has a very, very active life, and then going for meeting friends in the evening, right? So there's a versatility of life. A sportswear can live through this entire versatile. So we are creating products which are absolutely versatile for all these usage occasions without having to actually make multiple outfit changes.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Samriddhi.
Yeah, I'm Aryan, by the way. And my question to you is what was your biggest challenge while you were in Puma? What was your biggest challenge, marketing challenge, when addressing the Indian market at that point, like when Puma started, versus what would it be right now if you were to start fresh?
I think it's a fabulous question. is a question that I eat, sleep, and live with. That point of time, the biggest question was that you have a global brand which is definitely late entry, nobody knows it, but there is some kind of global uh, position of that brand. The products existed. Um, I didn't have to really create a lot of the products. Of course, there were India tweaks, but didn't have to really create the products. But the brand was not recognized. And you had existing 10, 15-year-old brands with global stature who were the best of the best. They had great heat products. You cannot have a bigger brand than a Jordan, as an example. Or that those days, Easy with Adidas. And some of these products had global heat, and which was not that time the case with Puma, and and that was a big challenge. How do you create your existence? Right now, it's a very different. We have a lot of tailwinds going our way, a lot of things which have leverage for us. But the fact is that my biggest challenge is, for example, for the Indian brand. How do you create pride within India for Indian brand in this category, right? This is not an Ayurveda brand, as an example, right? This is actually taking head on global brands. And you need to be top in class in terms of product quality and your brand's positioning, right? You cannot just win because. So also the product designs, everything is being designed from scratch. You're not you're not taking it from a global structure of a template. Huge opportunity, one can see it to be, but also a big challenge, because you have to make the consumers adopt to that, believing this is a better product and realizing and benefiting from it after having used it. So this for me is the biggest challenge.
Thanks a lot. Shantanu, I have a question for you as well, if I may. Uh, sure, sure. So, from the previous conversation that we had, I had a follow-up question. So, as you said, Bombay Shaving Company was able to ride the quick commerce wave. So, my question to you is: do you wish to penetrate or like break into the brick and mortars and kirana stores as well, or do you wish to ride the quick commerce wave since that is working out well for Bombay Shaving Company?
So the quick commerce is a wave. Brick and mortar will be the tsunami. Because frankly, 85% of retail will continue to be there. But what it will do for us is it will make it easier for us to target general trade in a right directional way. For example, the moment a Blinkit or a Zepto or an Instamart opens a store in, let's say, uh, Amravati, okay? Amravati is a place where I would find it very difficult to go on my own. But let's say there's a dark store there, and that dark store gives Bombay Shaving Company orders. And suddenly, around that dark store, within 5 kilometers, over a period of 6 to 9 months, there is some amount of customer base that is built. And then my team is able to notice that in these 10 neighborhoods, there are these 25, 30 stores. Then does it make sense for Bombay Shaving Company to be in these 30 stores? Yes. Because those customers now have already tasted Bombay Shaving Company through the quick commerce. So it becomes very directional. Would I go there on my own? No. But would I follow quick commerce? And if quick commerce is able to create, let's say, 5 lakhs a month of throughput, through general trade, can I create another 20 lakhs per month of throughput with the same customers? Yes. So quick commerce will plant the flag. The soldiers of general trade have to follow after that. Young brands will struggle with brick and mortar without direction. So quick commerce creates direction, sampling, initial customer acquisition, initial funnel building, and then we can then take it from there. It becomes much easier afterwards. So we follow. Yeah. Yes. Yes, someone here. Suyash.
So I have a question for Abhishek. So I think every entrepreneur in the beginning stages needs to answer the question of what business they are in, right? So I just wanted to, and that vision should be futuristic as well as she was mentioning. So I just wanted to clear that out with you. Like, have you have a definite, like, what business are you in? Like, are you in the clothing business? So let's say, are you in the apparel business, or like let's say the fitness industry, or the sports industry? So have had a specific game plan? Like, what business are you in? If someone asks you, like,
Yeah. In a non-sexy way, I'm in the business of sportswear, end to end integrated. But if you have to put a bit of a craft to it, I'd say that I'm in the business of enabling people look and feel good when they're moving.
I love the way he's framed that. Look and feel good when they're moving. It's such a specific. Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. Look and feel good when they're moving. Fuck, I love it, man.
Created right now.
You didn't get. Are you serious?
Yeah, I did.
Wow. Did that not hit a chord for you guys? I think IIM Lucknow is where the tagline of Agilitas has been built out. Look and feel good when you're moving. Fuck. Love it. On the move, look and feel good. It really hit a chord. I love it. Yes. Yes, Shravani.
So recently on Instagram, there was a lot of hue and cry regarding a certain company firing their employees because they are stressed. Later on, there were claims. Later on, there were claims that this was also a sort of
PR stunt.
publicizing the company and PR. So nowadays, it's been said since forever that any PR is good PR, whether negative or positive. So what do you feel about sensationalism as an entrepreneur?
I think you have to be authentic with your consumers. I think in this particular case, if this is what was true, I have a feeling that they actually fired the people and then they realized how wrong they were and they made it look like a PR stunt post facto. By the way, how many people here even remember the name of this company? What is it
Yes,
called?
it was Yes, Madam.
Yes, madam. But there are companies who are in the news for taking stances and positions at a founder level, at an employee level, at a brand level, which get people to talk about a particular topic. I think, for example, we belong to that category. We don't do it to create sensational content or to be PR. We are very authentically out there as a brand. We are a challenger, rebel brand taking on Gillette, a company we truly admire, but a company we want to beat from the bottom of our heart. And we cannot do that by not being authentic, but we will not pull punches. So there will be things that I say. We will do podcasts like this, but never will the objective function be to polarize, create sensation. Objective function will be, can we can we talk authentically about a topic that makes people stimulated enough to have a discussion, and that's totally okay. The human race has always evolved and progressed through discussion that has had diverse opinions. And if you can trigger and spark that, I think you're doing a great job, especially so Dipinder from Zomato is a classic example of this. He does a fantastic job of doing it, and he does it very authentically because I know him personally very well. He's exactly like that. There's not an ounce of dishonesty in what he does. Not an ounce. He's absolutely like that. So I think you should do it. And especially young companies like us who are challenging, taking on large incumbents. We are not built to like respect lanes. We're there to break, but not with a view to rile people up. And this was very negatively done. Like, I think that was in poor taste in every possible way. Not like that. But for example, I have said things around working 18 hours a day, which people, yeah, sure. Like I'm sure people got triggered and a lot of people were disagreeing about it. But it put the torchlight on startup hustle culture and toxic work culture and so on. The conversation went forward, and then Mr. Murthy took it in a different direction. So that's good. But broadly, I think it's okay to do it done authentically. Broadly, I don't know what you feel.
Yeah. I think that one needs to do something which sustains over a period of time and not one-time stuff to garner attention. Because as an enterprise, as a venture, as an entrepreneur, you would be here for long. And it's very important to put your guns there and stay there and stay consistent and being very true to yourself. And that is why I would say that if it is done in a way in which is to which is not a consistent approach, but to have certain objective, and that too you pull it off with that kind of a style, I think to me it is absolutely poor taste. You can always, in this world of too much of content and too much of noise, you're always wanting to stand out from the public, but there are better ways to do it.
So Abhishek shared a part of his vision, right? That he also wants people to stay at his company. He wants people to be wanting to, stay at his company and work for you. What are the levers you think that will make people stick to your company? And in general, if someone is starting out, we'll have to make a founding team. We'll have to get people on board, right? How do you get the right people on board and make them stick?
I think there's a 4-point formula. McKinsey guys like 3, but I'll go with 4.
One up.
Yeah, one up on them. uh, First, I think ambition and success is super important. If you're successful, there will be new challenges, new learnings, and you have ambition. You have to beat Gillette, you have to beat Nike, you have to beat whatever you have to beat Coca-Cola or whatever, whichever category you are in. And if there is nothing succeeds like success, and ambition is very important part of the success. I think it's super important. I can't think of a fabulous company that people are feeling very warm about, but is trading down and not making it. So success will be very important. Let's face it. But not always success leads to trust within the organization. That people are having to watch their back every time. Lot of, there will be managers who would say, मुझे CC करो, तभी आप बॉस के बॉस को लिख सकते हो या इसको लिख सकते हो. CC culture, insecurity, which is absolutely low on trust. People don't trust each other. They're competing. Everyone is competing because there are 4 people competing for this next promotion. And it leads to a very toxic culture in the organization. And it also distracts from that ambition that is point number 1. So I think building trust in the organization. Third, people are spending the best time of their life with the organization. So absolute fun and celebration is very important, right? Because you can create the highest market cap, but if you're not having fun, if you can't, banter with your team, if the team doesn't chill out together, just feel like being around with great friends and having great time or cracking the business together and having this, then I think that's not. So these are very, very important elements of how an organization needs to be created, the organization I would like to create. Number 4 is disproportionate wealth than other things. So you have to, for key people or people who are core to these top 3 points, they have to create disproportionate wealth. And wealth cannot be congregated at a few places, but has to be shared. And very transparently, very openly. I think if that is happening, what else does a person want? And a mix of all of this is what will keep people.
I think one very important thing which he mentioned at the end is communication of the promise. So ambition and success, a high trust, high cultural organization, career paths that are very well established, and wealth generation. All of that many times is in the founder's head only. And they're executing it, but people don't know. So that's what George Bernard Shaw said, right? The biggest issue with communication is the illusion that it has happened. So when it comes to rewarding people, it has to be explicitly clear to them over a period of time what the investment is in them and what the expectation is of them, and hence what is the pot of gold or the pots of gold at the ends of many rainbows that they will go through in the organization. For example, my co-founder and chief operating officer Deepak Gupta joined as a CXO in one channel in 2019. Over the last 6 years, he went to become the chief business officer, the chief operating officer, the co-founder and chief operating officer. Now he sits on the board. And it's true, he has equity position in the company that is many times more than what it was when he joined. Right? But he also knows the share price. The good part is, he knows the kind of work he has to do for that share price to increase. So his wealth is share price into number of shares, Number of shares is a discussion between him and me. Share price is what the company is able to garner. So when you're able to correlate my work with share price, and then you kind of make everything around that in every 3-4 month discussions, then it becomes very well communicated. So I think that's the in all these 4 points if communicated well, then you can have a situation like Puma where people just don't leave because it's awesome.
Though the wealth wasn't there.
Despite the wealth out
And then all of them leave it once for Agilitas.
Yes. Yes, there's someone here. Yeah.
My friend and I were planning to open a startup in the sports infrastructure space, like opening turfs for football, badminton, squash, all those things. So we feel that the sports infra is lacking in India, and there is some need to bridge that gap, especially in southern parts where the real estate cost is high and the parks are also not much over there. So if you can give some insights on this industry.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's a very very good problem to solve, and I would say there are certain people I know who are solving it, but I think it's a very large problem to solve. What I would encourage you to think is a bit differently and make it more efficient in the build, because it's a high real estate, can be a very capital intensive, high fixed cost kind of a model. Like, I'm just thinking aloud. There are a lot of pickleball courts that can be created on terraces, as an example. So, what can you create which today in a real estate which is unused or underused or less valued, and yet is accessible? And I don't have a clear answer except the terrace example that I gave you. Like if you look at so many buildings today where there is retail, there's a McDonald's on the ground floor, there is something on the and then there is a terrace today which is not used. People probably, best case, you will have a solar panel, right? It can be a good infrastructure to create an outdoor gym, to thinking it a bit differently, or a pickle court, which is today is taking on India, but there are not enough courts. So if you think about it, the first thing would be to think of the product in a bit different way, and not ki, okay, let me go and create a swimming pool here, which will incur high real estate cost and high fixed costs. So if you can think differently on the product without losing on where the demand is, with which type of sport, and losing on the convenience factor, which means it has to be available in the neighborhood and not people have to go 1 hour or 1.5 hours away from their houses. If there are ways to solve that, brand that place, operate it in eventually in an asset light model, aggregate then through technology, aggregate demand, I think there is a business to be had there.
You know your first investor, right?
So, hello, sir. I might be diverting from the topics a bit, but in a market where expectations regarding sustainable practices is increasing day by day, how does it influence your operational strategies or brand's vision in the longer run?
Yeah, I think, no, this is not a departure at all. It is very front and center. I saw a documentary, and if you guys have not watched it, and if you guys are going to enter the corporate worlds in your own way, do watch the Buy Now documentary. Have you watched it? It's an insane documentary about sustainable business practices, that how from apparel to sportswear to razors to, companies, food, beverages, every single person selling a product only is concerned about selling the product and has no care as to what happens to the product after it has been bought by the consumer. How the consumer is using it, where they're throwing it, where it gets disposed of. Brands don't care, including me. We don't care. And I think the fundamental shift is, how do you have an end of life view to your product? That I will sell a razor to you, but I have to have in my mind as a brand what will happen at the end of life. Because currently that razor will go into the dustbin will go into a plastic, kind of waste bag, will go into a dump where a poor cow might eat onto sharp metal and cut her tongue and die. Okay? And that's my responsibility as a brand. We don't do anything about it yet. And I don't feel good about that. So I think we have to take small steps towards figuring out what is end of life for all our products, whether it's a shaving foam can or a razor blade or anything. And it's very, if you just put your mind to it, idea is around collecting it, sorting it out, using more recyclable materials, really thinking about whether the recyclable material is actually recyclable or not, and then changing your supply chain over a period of time to make sure that you're a more responsible producer of these things. I think if you were to ask me, we give ourselves a grand 0.5 on 10 currently. But I think that there is intent to do more. I wish and I solicit support from experts in the field and from the government to help us do this, because it comes at additional cost. But I think over the next 6 months, we are going to put down, and everyone's going to measure credits, carbon credits, and all that. I think that's just hygiene. I think beyond that, end of life thinking has to be something that brands do, and we don't do it yet. This is the honest answer. We try our best in very small, kind of spread across initiatives, but long way to go for us. We're going to get started.
Yeah, I look at it in a way of phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. I think phase 3 we can do a lot, because our industry, fashion, can be very pollutive, uh, especially garments and all of this, the entire process of making products and actually driving consumption. So you're actually selling more and more, and it can be very pollutive, and brands are aware of it, because new consumers especially are challenging the brands a lot on this. So being responsible fashion platform is very, very important. So there is a lot that we can probably influence. How I see it for Agilitas is that we want to have that seeded right at the beginning, rather than it becoming an afterthought. And one of the biggest thing that we can do is because we are a manufacturer as well. So I'll give you a very quick example on what we are doing, and which is really authentically sustainable, right? And is immediately generating value. So at Mochico, which is our manufacturing company that we are acquired, there is a lot of raw materials which don't get used by the brands and is scrapped today at less than scrap value. Like, less than scrap value means it's almost kind of disposed of, right? And that's fair share of the raw materials that enter the factory premises. And over a period of time, this is absolute waste. This is a business problem to solve. On the other side, I've seen in the industry a lot of greenwashing happening. And I've seen brands using things like ocean plastics, where they would convert plastics from the ocean, which get disposed of into the water, and they take that out and convert it into yarns and fabric, and ultimately make it into raw material which goes into the product. But what is not getting considered is the transport cost to get this. So they're actually adding to the carbon footprint in the process, right? And it's very crazy how this is being done. So it is being done to attain an objective and a score. So what can we do? The first thing to be thought is, closest to the source, what can you solve? The closer you are to the source, you have to solve that, because you cannot add more fuel to the equation, right? Because then it puts more, and that's why things become expensive. So what we want to do at Mochico, and I'm putting it out there, even though the project is still to take real shape, is to convert them into shoes and sell it at a cheaper price than regular shoes. So why should sustainable products be more expensive when it is coming out of scrap? And it's actually turning because people are used to say, oh, I am wanting to wear sustainable product because but it is more expensive. But you're not democratizing it and not giving people an extra reason to buy it. Once you do that, you're absolutely putting your thought into how to really make products. And then you put it out there to people that it is made from scrap material. And hence it is coming for, I'm just saying, 1,200 rupees. Right? And clearly stating it was sold at the source where the product was being made. Once we do that, we're actually putting that not just in front of the consumer, but in the DNA of our company to keep thinking in this way.
The way to think about sustainability is that the entire premise of human growth is that we dig the earth, we borrow her resources, we create plastics and oils and products like clothes and razors and shoes, and we grow and grow and grow, right? I think as consumers and entrepreneurs, our approach should be to whatever we have taken out of the earth, at least we put that much back into her, right? So, and he's right, there's too much greenwashing happening. Buy a face wash, we'll plant a tree for you. No fucking way. No one's planting a tree because you bought a 100 rupee face wash. Not happening. If you want to put a tree, then find the right organization, because it costs $40 to $50 to plant a sapling and watch it grow for 4 years, protect it from cattle and animals and rain and so on, and so it becomes a tree. To find the organization, invest in that. Or if you believe in water, or if whatever you believe in, but give back whatever you're consuming or whatever you're creating. I think that's one way for us to be responsible citizens, either as consumers or as entrepreneurs or as professionals or institutions even. But beyond that, I think I agree with him. There's too much greenwashing happening. It's too much. So yeah, let's be careful of that also. Yes, Ashish has a question.
Hi, I'm Ashish. So it's a follow up to what you were discussing about why we don't have an indigenous brands in India. And you mentioned a lot of things. Both of you mentioned, like you mentioned trust, communication, you mentioned authenticity. But like, what is it the issue on the customer side as well? Like, why are we so hard to crack? Like, what is the, like, you both work in a different sectors, right? So what do you think is the main issue?
When you say indigenous brands, we have a lot of indigenous brands
Like on a global scale.
on a global scale.
Right.
I have a hypothesis on that. I don't know what you think. I think that we have, as a country, we don't know how to build global businesses with their indigenous people. Very few organizations in India can actually go to the US as brands, hire local people in the US who understand local consumers and convert our brand into a product for local consumers. We always sell our brands to Indians in the US. Like Haldiram will be sold to Indians in the US or Indians in Europe. Or Red Bull will be or Royal Enfield will be sold to the Indian diaspora. We are not able to think about how will Haldiram be changed with flavors like beef jerky and pepperoni to, let's say, the American audience, for example. I don't think we have thought that through fully. So the ability, and I think it also comes from being colonized for so many years. We are still creating for ourselves and we are still finding our identity. We're only 75, 80 years old as a country, right? So I think over a period of time, and maybe entrepreneurs like Abhishek, maybe Agilitas brands will go to the US, find a local CEO, the way Puma found Abhishek, and build Agilitas for the US in an American way, which celebrates Taylor Swift and Justin Bieber more than Diljit Dosanjh, for example, as opposed to celebrating Diljit Dosanjh and selling it to the Indian people in the US. So I think the ability to identify that we have to tweak ourselves and not remain Indian, but become American or Australian or Middle Eastern or whatever it is, wherever we are. I think that's what holds us back because I don't think we are able to make that switch. I think Tata Group in steel and some commodities we're able to do it. But in brands, I think we have a long way to go.
I split it into two: building Indian brand in India in certain categories where we have not built a brand. Right? His category also, by the way, I feel. Gillette makes the cut. He's come in with Bombay Shaving Company. We didn't have a brand from India for this. Definitely in my category because it's global incumbent brand. And then about Indian brands making it to the other places, to the other markets. And let me address the second one first because my answer is very similar to what Shantanu is saying. I think we as a country haven't been able to globally operate companies, especially consumer businesses. And there it is not about pushing our own ways because India needs a hustle, India needs a different way of, and then you go in and then you have a very, very different market. Very different market. Same reason why those market leaders sometimes cannot be successful in India. Reverse is also true, right? Because you have to operate the business in that geography and that consumer. And we're not having global thinkers. What happened, the advantage let's say an American brand had, their market was so large that they scaled, they created so much of of value for themselves and so much of scale for themselves that when they went to an India or a China or a Japan, they had all the resources to localize wherever was required. Build a local team, a Japanese management team for Japan or a Korean management team for Korea. And they could create that because their market themselves was scaled big time, right? The size of the price in that market is huge. Whereas in India, because the scale itself in your domestic market is small, you don't create resources to go and just, you can only put skeleton teams, right? But it's absolutely right. And the mindset of Indian hustle, which we are so proud of, might not work in a multi-geography world, right? I mean, I come from that world and I appreciate the reason why they are like how they are, right? Today, I might be, in a way, taking a dig after, how templatized these large corporations are. And, I was talking about it yesterday. But that's what makes it globally successful because you're operating in multiple geographies, right? So that's the challenge. But I think then there is a challenge of creating Indian brands in an aspirational category where it's a part of lifestyle, where there are a lot of things that we have not done. After a long time, China is able to do. China is selling luxury products, luxury brands, auto, all of that. It's all Chinese brands, Chinese fashion, homes, phones, home, furniture, all of them. They are creating great China story. And there is a genuine Chinese love for Chinese brands. I think India is now accepting it. India needs to, over a period of time, needs or will, rather let me put it, not needs, India will start loving India stories. Where we are not great, I believe our penchant for quality, aesthetics and detail, little details, will always compromise. We feel if we sell something for the cheapest, we have the maximum chance of success. Instead of putting in the best thought, the best design, the best formulation, the best, and then creating globally competing products, because Indian consumers have the option today to buy global brands. So you have to make great products, great experiences to sell those products, and great comms, great communication, right? These three things, I think generally we have not been able to do.
I think building global brands from India will require us to be patriotic about Indian businesses, but not patriotic about the Indianness of businesses. So, for example, it will be difficult for a patriotic American to realize that in India, a McDonald's cannot do with a quarter pounder beef burger and a hamburger. That won't work in India. It will be about makalu tikki and paneer McSpicy and stuff like that. So, a patriotic American will say, I want my American business to be successful, even if it is not American in its design and everything. So an Indian business will have to be successful without being Indian. And it has to be an Indian business, but it doesn't have to be the Indianness of the business does not have to be there to be super successful. I think that's the fundamental belief I have, that if we are able to dissociate, like think about, like we still create premiumization in apparel by calling brands anglicized names like Peter England and Van Heusen and stuff like that. That's how we create aspiration. Or we
Foreign models.
Yeah, foreign models, white skin, like stuff like that, right? We still have not gotten out of it. I think in this classroom maybe yes, but at a mass level, we are still not out of it. So for us to then, but now we have this whole patriotic wave that's happening, which is great. But I think it has to be placed rightly. It cannot be about the Indianness of our brands. We cannot force an American person to like Ratlami Save by Akash. If Akash has to sell Save in the US, it has to be American. Or in Brazil, it has to be Brazilian. And for that, we have to go there. We have to create resources by building successful businesses here. Create resources, go there and hire locally and penetrate. I think true global dominance will come with establishing Indian companies with non-Indian people. And that's I think the view.
And the change will happen. And it will start it has to start at home. First, Bombay Shaving Company has to beat Gillette in India.
Yeah.
and you all have to change.
If you're not already.
If you're not already. No, I'm just
Good
saying,
question,
but so you have to win that. You have to win the game. They won in their domestic market. Their market was so large, and that gave them the resources.
Which is why I love what companies like Ola and Oyo do. Even though they get so criticized for raising lots of money, losses.
Yeah.
But man, Oyo, yaar, kitna bhi bol lo yaar, but that company, the way they have gone out, acquired businesses, and they're still at it in the US and Europe, it's frankly like the spirit of entrepreneurship is undeniable.
Yeah.
It's undeniable.
और मुझे ये लगता है कि next 5 years में ये और होगा because global capital and Indian capital will be so much available for Indian entrepreneurs that they will be able to capitalize themselves to go after some of these ambitions.
अभी भी हम लोग जाके वो योगा और आयुर्वेदा और महात्मा गांधी और यही सब बेचते रहते ग्लोबली. नहीं यार, वी नीड टू लाइक छोड़ो. आई हैव टू मेक अ रेजर दैट्स अमेरिकन for a white dude or for a African American ethnicity or for a Mexican guy. I cannot sell him something that Ashok Deshpande uses in Pune. No, I cannot do that. I just cannot do that. So वो थोड़ा वो mindset shift. It's hard for me also. I'm sure it's hard for Abhishek. They're wired differently. To unlearn that fully, and then only can we make it global. But I'm sure in 20 years you'll see stories like this.
Yes. So, Abhishek, you made your entire journey sound so simple and easy with like a 560 crore seed, 1,000 crore revenue acquisition. I want to learn more about like if you've had any tough days yet in Agilitas, like any anecdotes you have. And also over the years, if you've developed any mental models on how to deal with stress, because I'm sure there was a lot of it, right, in the last 25 years. So just how do you think about these things?
That's a great question. And as it happens in everybody's life, with scale, the just magnitude changes. But you go through ups and downs. And I have had my fair share of ups and downs in life. Even in my brief period at Agilitas, whatever, since September 23 till today, I've had good days, bad days, very bad days, very good days. And I'm not great in taking stress, honestly. You know, that's a very, and I'm very, very aware and cognizant about it because this deep-seated thing of wanting to perfect and wanting to win can become a big challenge for me. And I come from that mindset that I want this way and this is, and that doesn't help. Over a period of time, life just teaches you to accept it because you can't control, you can only control the controllables. What has really helped me, to be honest, if you ask me, is that whenever I have lost something or things didn't go my way, I had a bit of different dimension of my life which took over. And I didn't, while today as an entrepreneur, I am having to spend disproportionate time, energy of my own into building Agilitas, I would like to believe that I'm more than that, just that. So whether it is my personal relationships, my friends, my network, people that I just want to, just have a different type of conversation, working out, playing a sport, within the company also, not just only talking what we are building. And that's where you find the recourse that you go and withdraw and then go and distribute it somewhere else. I think that helps. Just building one pillar of your life, you're putting too much pressure. And that's true with everything, even with relationships. A lot of us would put everything into one relationship and then some cracks emerge in that and then it starts shaking and just troubles you so much from within. Right? So I think as an entrepreneur, I feel, or just as a human being, I'm having a bit of multiple dimension kind of splits the load, especially from times when there are certain cracks in one or certain challenges in one. So that's the approach. If you see my entire build out also, while I would say I'm deeply focused in sport, but I'm also playing in the entire value chain. There will be times when one business will have a bit more tailwind, maybe some other might be having some kind of a stress at that point of time. But overall, I want to improve my gumption and my ability to take lows And this thing that I was talking since yesterday, that you level up, your energy also makes you also expect outcomes in a certain way. And that's a bit of balance that is required. Things that I need to work on.
Also, another question, talking about last night, I think you mentioned that, you always looked up to people 2, 3 years senior to you and just use them as an example. Did you have similar role models? And if you could take some names on who really inspired both of you in IIM Lucknow to level up every day and dial up energy?
2, 3 people. There was one. There was someone 2 years my senior at NIT Nagpur, and also 2 years my senior at IIM Lucknow. So at NIT Nagpur, he was in third year when I was in first year. So it was like a senior I looked up to a lot. His name was Vineet Khanna, and he cracked CAT, came to Lucknow. 2 years later, I cracked CAT, came to Lucknow, and he had joined TAS. So I was like, I need to also join TAS. I need to go to Lucknow, join Manfest, and join TAS after that. That was literally my plan. And he really helped me through preparing for CAT, preparing for the Manfest process, helping with Manfest sponsorship. And then for finals, he told me that, if you have an opportunity to get into consulting, into McKinsey or whatever, you should actually take that. Might be a better job than TAS. And that was great. At McKinsey, Rahul and Sid were 2 years my senior. They were founding Tribo. In fact, I was going to join them because they were such amazing mentors to me at the firm. But I felt, I need to be around them, whatever they're doing. They went on to build Tribo. I did not join them, and I still kind of work with them a lot on things like investing together and so on. I've stayed close to them and continue to derive inspiration from them. At IIM Lucknow, couple of Manfest seniors were amazing. There were, I think, more alums of IIM Lucknow. Kanika Kalra, for example, was a Manfest 2004 at HUL. Incidentally went on to work at McKinsey, became a partner, and now is at Reckitt, where we are working together as an investor and founder, right? So she's someone I used to look up to a lot, just the way she built out her career and so on. So I think people who, 2, 3, 4 years senior, but had done amazing work.
Yeah, you will get a bit of mid-40s answer from me. I call it mid-40s because, I would say I draw different inspiration from different people, right? I draw a lot of inspiration from of the best in the world, you know, and in terms of how they have built companies. And closer home, I would say that, for me, I really thrive on what I would call human connections. And some of my best friends, there is a very close friend of mine called Ambarish Gupta. He lives in Dubai. We've been friends for a long time. Absolutely dependable, responsible, great guy to go to, super kind-hearted. And I've learned a lot from him on how to prioritize friends and relationships, as an example. I have been fortunate enough to be in Bangalore, and I could see how Mukesh built Myntra, how his entire team stuck with him, how Sachin and Binny built Flipkart those days, how absolute ambition of Indian entrepreneurs. I saw that up and close because I was also working with the platform. And there have been multiple in the industry. I've seen some of the best leaders. And I have learned a lot from those people. But I've also learned a lot. Like every time, I believe that there is a takeaway from everyone. Amit and Atul, like two people that I am so thrilled that they partnered up with me. I learned a lot about aggression and dependability from Atul Bajaj, who's my co-founder, and I realized from Amit that what can be absolute trust in a person to getting into absolute level of details, thinking of the fourth dimension. Again, non-McKinsey. So the fourth dimension he brings in, when Atul and I would come in and cheer that we've got all the three things in the equation, but Amit will say, but तुमने वो वाला सोचा है क्या? Right? Like, shit, we thought we had a great deal. Right? And you learn different things from different people. So I would not, of course, you look at Steve Jobs and, you just feel so so inspired by his journey and the way he built Apple and his design thinking, and the way he would look at his life. There are such great examples, but closer home every day. I mean, I've met Shantanu yesterday, and there is already so much that I'm already picking from him. And I think that's keeping that antenna always on
very important
is very important. And I felt I have benefited a lot. Yeah.
Yes. Upanchu has a question. We'll take one or two more because I think we also have flights to catch now.
Sir, I want to know, like, manufacturing in apparel side, there is a lot of competition and the cost is very less in China. Same for Vietnam and Bangladesh. All those countries are also moving in on manufacturing in their countries. So what gave you the guts or the confidence that you can replicate it in India? And also, is it profitable? Like in economics, we learn that if they are efficient, let them do that thing and then we could add value through another thing. So, what is your take on this?
First and foremost, I think we're not into apparel manufacturing. The company that we acquired is into footwear manufacturing, and that has not been solved in India yet. Whereas for various reasons, you need to have manufacturing in India. It gives you speed, and it's also more savvy for a new regulation which the government has come up with called the BIS, Bureau of Indian Standard. It is more savvy a business model to have supply chain within India, right? And yes, it is a double-digit profitable company from the time we acquired, and it is a cash-generative asset. So from all business sense, it is absolutely important. It's great. Why it is important is that it is not easy to set up an asset. So I couldn't have deployed 100 crores or 150 crores and created another Mochiko. It's an ecosystem that has created over time. There are a lot of things that get into it. So I felt that it is better to buy and grow this rather than build this from scratch, right? There is a know-how. It's that ecosystem of suppliers, the raw material suppliers. It's a hard business and difficult business. It's a super defensible business in today's scenario, and that's why. And there is a lot of, and I think for brands to grow in this space, supply chain is not back end in footwear. It's absolutely strategic and core. That's why.
I also feel like, for example, the world is deglobalizing, and China has established tremendous amounts of supply. If you look at ag inputs, for example, we cannot compete on cost. So one of the things that we are going to have to do is they're going to have to make local consumption a little exclusive for Indian manufacturing. That's the only way we will compete globally, and the government has realized this, and that's what's happening. And this is an opportunity, frankly. We had opportunity to build out brands and service businesses till now. I think next 10 to 20 years, with the government and the world being where it is, I think it's an opportunity for India to build out manufacturing capabilities. Every time we go to a factory in China, every single person there is vernier caliper and tools in hand. And India is not like that yet. Maybe except maybe automotive and maybe the Agilitas Mochiko factory. But we have to build that culture of Make in India is not just a theme or a war cry. It is who we have to be. So entrepreneurs, if I were to be an entrepreneur today, I would strongly think about being an entrepreneur in the manufacturing space, depending on the industry. Because I think the Indian market will be kept exclusive for Indian manufacturers as much as possible.
And again, in our category, it's such an important space. And there is just not one part of the manufacturing. That itself is a supply chain of its own. We would love to invest in other people who are getting started in this space. There's so much to solve, so much of a headroom. Nobody there. We are only, one part of the puzzle. There is more to it.
It's going to be inconvenient for next 2-3 years. Brands like us will have to start getting into manufacturing. We were very import friendly till now. and that was fine. But now we'll have to become a lot more, make ourselves.
I think the government just gets it. I really feel this
Yeah.
new regulations is absolutely what India needed to become indigenous.
If I can ask another follow up. So, like in our college or in other colleges as well, consulting is a very hyped thing, right? And you being a consultant, I just want to know, like, when big leaders come over here, like I have attended talks from big leaders, so they say that consultancy is something which you should not start your career from because you need to get on the ground and learn some things. What is your view on this? Because you started with consulting and then you are doing FMCG kind of a thing.
Thankfully, you addressed him. मुझे तो shortlist ही नहीं किया.
I know it's sexy to hate on consultants. I know it feels popular because it feels like an exclusive club that most people tried to get into but were not able to. And a lot of this comes from there. Unless you're Steve Jobs, and he's right when he says consultants don't add value to Steve Jobs. Because you're Steve Jobs. What can you do with Steve Jobs? But frankly, I think the environment of consulting in India, and I'll talk about McKinsey in India because that's my worldview, right? I did work in McKinsey with clients in coal sourcing, government insurance, infrastructure, um, hospitals, government hospitals, everywhere where there was massive efficiency upsides that pure problem solving and high quality intellect could do. Because the delta between the McKinsey team and the average client employee was significantly higher. Would a McKinsey team do a great job in an investment bank where the talent pool is similar? Probably not, because the delta is not there. So the consulting playbook was built around information and intellectual arbitrage, which was then used to help clients deliver shareholder value. And it worked. 80% of McKinsey revenue today still comes from repeat clients. If you're a bad product, you won't have people coming in and paying through their nose multiple times for 120, whatever, 100 plus years. This is McKinsey's 100th year of existence. So there's something that they're doing right, and other firms also. I totally disagree with the premise that you should not start your. I think building a career at consulting will make you will actually make you a bad operator if you stay for too long. But first 4 or 5 years, like for example, someone like me had multi-industry exposure, multi-function exposure, and muscle building across problem solving, relationship building, team management, and pure business chops. Nothing could have prepared me for entrepreneurship better than 4 or 5 years at McKinsey. If I would have stayed there for 10 years, I would not have been able to leave. Right? It's too comfortable a place and it takes too good care of you, and you frankly get outpriced in the market. Like no one can pay you that anymore. So you continue to do that and you do well and whatever, right? So I think if you want to build a great career as an operator, don't stay in consulting for too long. I think that's the right premise. Don't join consulting, I think, is hogwash advice. It comes from a place of jealousy more than anything else. I don't know who said that. Who said that? Were they consultants and said that, or were they non-consultants and said that? Then it's fine. Then you dismiss it immediately. Awesome.
Here's a question.
Yes, Aryan, go ahead. One last one.
It's a small question.
No,
Okay,
good. Why are you
so-
feeling guilty about it? It's totally okay. We're here for you.
So, I've been an advent user of Gillette products, and I feel they're amazing. But I'm also a very well wisher of Bombay Shaving Company, and I really follow the whole journey. And I feel like, from a very honest opinion, it would take a lot to build a product as good as Gillette, if not better. So, what would be the USP that Bombay Shaving Company would thrive on to basically, maybe penetrate this market, or maybe penetrate the monopoly that Gillette is currently having?
Take a look around this room. Okay? So in front of you is someone who shaves his head and trims his beard. Next to him is an entrepreneur who probably shaves on a daily basis. On your right is Sunavo, who has a stubbled beard and a good looking mustache. You will have Suyash, who probably shaves every day, but on daily, you look at yourself. You have a stubble so you look like a lazy shaver who might not mind a zero trimmer once in a while. You have Mohit in the room. You have Ramteke sir, who has a mustache which has not changed for the last 15 years since I know him. Right? Gillette only makes razors. They only make products for a great shave. And I think they make phenomenal products. You wake up in the morning and you want clean, smooth, glistening skin, from a 1 rupee blade to a 20 rupee Presto to a 25 rupee Guard to a 250 rupee Mark III to a 400 rupee Fusion. Fantastic. But hair removal is going way beyond razors. You need to shave your head. You need to give yourself a zero trim. You need to remove hair off your body if you're going to the gym. You need to show your tattoos. You need to look at your cuts. We live in a tropical country where heat is very problematic for men, especially if you're going to wear banyans. Their spouses complain about hair on the back and chest. You think hair removal is restricted to shaving? Absolutely not. 20 years back, if you look at a toiletry, if you look at Abhishek's toiletry area in IIM Lucknow hostel, would probably be a shaving foam, a razor, a deodorant, and a soap. 4 products. You look at an average toiletry kit of a 20-year-old today, you will have 15 products, including trimmers, face washes, anti-acne creams, hair styling products, beard styling products, and many more. Gillette just plays in one. Does a fucking amazing job of playing in the razor space. But we play everywhere else. And when we give delightful products everywhere else, for those 10-15% consumers, will they want to switch to a razor that we give which is equally good, maybe better for sensitive skin at a better price? Sure. Will we beat Gillette in razors? Maybe not. Will we beat Gillette in hair removal and grooming? Absolutely. So that's the way to play. I think if you can stay with the market and the consumer, my view is you have a chance to win. This is just confidence, by the way. It'll have to play out in an interesting way.
How can you beat Gillette in razors?
So the way to beat, see, I'll tell you what, this is a 120-year-old technology and they are masters at it, okay? We have to find really interesting use cases for our products to be better. For example, we believe that a 17-year-old boy who's shaving for the first time does not have a good product because the blades are too close and Indian men have acne and we want to shape our beards. So when the blades are too close, they pull on the acne. So shaving is a painful thing for people with acne. So can you make the blade slightly further apart, add more sensitive aloe vera gel on it and make the razor more flexible on the skin? Yes. Also, a 17-year-old boy today wants to use a razor that's different from his father. He wants a razor that he identifies with. So for us, the opportunity is, can we make the first shave from a challenger, local, Indian, indigenous brand as opposed to something that is father user, which is old? That's the way to kind of emotionally and functionally kind of get the consumer in. After that, even once the acne problem is over, he hopefully will still have a beard of some kind or a mustache, which hopefully our product will help style better. So ours will be a shaving, styling, hair removal solution. Just on shave, will we beat Gillette? We'll probably try to come as close to them as possible. So for someone like you, probably who's a clean shaver every day, I would love for us to be a product that you think is even as good as. But for example, for Sunavo, I think we'll probably have a much better solution for him compared to, let's say, Gillette. For me, for example, I would have just shaved my cheeks and my neck. So I'm okay with that kind of product. I need something on the back to get my ear right, for example. Stuff like that.
I also see that, I don't know whether you've seen this as a trend. I go to Europe and see people are going back in time in a lot of things. So I'd see that, you know, that old grandfather thing of this and putting, is that just a fad?
It's a fad.
It's just a fad?
It's not a fad. I think it's like fountain pens. For people who love it, they really love it. But those number of people are very small. They might do it on a Sunday. But on a daily basis, you want to shave every day, you need 5 minutes, fatafat. Nahi karenge wo. There is value to it. You'll be in the bathroom. But it may not be daily. That's the answer.
Thanks a lot for that.
Hopefully, you'll use our products more now.
I'm already using it.
Awesome. Glad. That's why you look so good. Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you to IIM Lucknow, to Alcom, to everyone. Such a pleasure. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I hope this was helpful for you. I hope this was value addition. I hope even if for 1% some of you think about starting up on your own, I think we would have done a good job. And
One
Abhishek,
lollipop moment.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Pleasure.
Thank you.